And then there was one. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Monday Show. I'm Skari, your grateful host, and this is a show I do every Monday for patrons. Every once in a while, I open up the vaults and do a public show for all of you to enjoy. I was sharing it, and it all showed up on my phone. That's so funny. It literally was like popping up on my phone. That is so funny. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Skari, and this is the weekly Monday show, which is like a podcast, but better. I talk about a variety of things that matter to me in the hobby, and as you can see here, I compile all the patron questions from the Denizen community on Discord and on the patron site, and you can ask any question. And of course, today we're doing a public Monday show for everybody to hang out. Just to kind of show you a little bit, we did the List Crunch show on Friday, but it is the World Championships of Warhammer coming out, or happening. They're happening this weekend. I'm very excited. I did win a ticket to go, but I was unable to attend, which means I deferred my ticket to somebody next in line that could attend. And yeah, so I'm gonna eagerly sort of watch everything that's happening on the sidelines. And there's pods and tons of games of Warhammer. Like the winner could play up to 14 different games of Warhammer, which is nuts. Personally, I'm in the position where I'm going to a team event this weekend. It's an 8-person team event called the Beer and Pretzels Open, which is held in a place called Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. Which, once you get to Canada, and you think you're as north as you can go. You go further north, then you get to where I am in Barrie. Then you go even further north, and you get to a place called Sudbury. And that's, right in the northy parts of the northy places. That's where you're going to find Sudbury. And that's kind of where we're going to be. So it's going to be a good time, and I'm looking forward to it. I was a mercenary for a team called the Last Place Ponies, and I'm really excited to take some pictures because we got like pony masks and stuff. It's going to be weird, but it's going to be fun. And I am running my silly Talos list. So I will be doing a tournament and review for all of you to enjoy as well, because I'm still learning lots about this this list that I'm playing, and I'm trying to spread hope before Christmas. Other than that, thanks a lot for coming and hang out. Of course, feel free to leave a comment and chat. Like this video. Do me a favor if you really like this kind of content. Like the video, share it with your friends, leave a comment, and let me know who you think is going to win the World Championships of Warhammer. A huge shout out to the channel Patreons. The Denizen community is amazing. I love all of you. If you'd like to support the channel on Patreon, the link is in the description and is the best way to support the channel. Other than that, hello everyone. James says, Black Templars, Chaos Space Marines, or Chaos Knights for my first GT in 10th. It depends what you feel like, really. First GT ever, I would go with whatever you're most comfortable with. As soon as you're, that would saves you a lot of time and effort remembering rules and getting stressed out about, playing your faction right. So take the thing that you're most comfortable with and play with that. Then you go further and get to North Bay, and then Timmins, and then ice, and then it's all ice. That's exactly how Canada feels, Foz. And it did snow a couple of days ago, but it has been snowing north already. So, yeah. Cosmic did not get the first chat, and he's very sad. He's normally the first one in chat. And Nikki, hello Nikki as well. Local Raven says, I'll be at the US Open next door in the Grand Narrative. Oh, I know. I wish I was going to the Grand Narrative as well. I had such a fun time last year, dressed up as a Harlequin and being, was it Spec, the envoy of Archon Skari? I was hoping to get a cosplay of Archon Skari done, but as soon as I started my fundraiser for Archon Skari, there was a big earthquake in, I think it was Turkey, and I was like, I don't feel right asking for money when there's people who need food in an earthquake. So we ended up shutting that down. I was like, maybe next year. So we'll see. Dorian says, I think we only know about Sudbury outside of Canada thanks to the Letterkenny hockey spin-off. Is it happening in Sudbury? Is that the whole point? Letterkenny, by the way, is hilarious. If you haven't watched it already, do yourself a favor and check it out. Who took my dice? Welcome to the frozen wasteland of the north. Yeah, that's how that works. I must now melt down my Necrons. Feigning the internet means I failed the robots. That's sad, Cosmic. Don't do that. You still have to. You'll have to play Custodes. Nikki with the jab. Who? Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about what happened in the hobby this past couple of weeks. I did miss the Monday show last week because I had zero voice. And if you watch my tournament in review, I literally had no voice. And it was like the sexiest Scary you've ever heard in your life. I was raspy and deep voice, but it was more because I had zero voice. Yeah, so that happened. So now I'm back and I can actually talk. But I went to a GT, I won, and it's funny because as soon as you win GTs, there's a lot of people who message you to get on podcasts and write articles, and it's like the PR. I was like, okay. Well, it kind of helps that I'm like the Dark Eldar guy, other than Dark Techno Dom and all the guys from Real Space Raiders that go around and do amazing work and keep the dream alive for all of us. Just saying. Snowed out around Ottawa today. That's crazy. Tampa showed me no more Custodes. Yeah, Custodes are in a bit of a rough spot, meta-wise. Then they just reanimate. You melt them down, they reanimate. Yeah, so I had a ton of fun. I've had a lot of fun talking to people about my list and how killy it actually is. And, because it's one of those lists, or it's a list that's not necessarily the, it doesn't jump out at you from the page as like a very killy, aggressive style list. However, it's like, has a very, is very killy. Like, I literally played and I filmed a battle report today against Space Marines. And this is like a Space Marine list that you're starting to see that's more frequent. Lots of Inceptors with Plasma and Bolters, Redemptor Dreadnoughts, bouncing stuff up and down, lots of like sneaky shenanigans. And I didn't even run like a crazy list, but like the amount of damage Dark Eldar can put out is nuts. Even if everything dies. Like everything dies at the end of the day, but you can really kill some stuff, which is crazy. And I'm just really excited to see, how that translate in the long run. Because we've got codexes that have to come out. I'm very excited about having codexes. We've got some down the pipeline. We'll see how that shakes up the meta. The meta itself is, I feel it's healthy. It's healthier than it was. Chaos Space Marines and Eldar and Votann are really like the big three, the big bad three. So hopefully they get adjusted soon and that whatnot. But going into the World Championships of Warhammer, it is 150 players that are all split up into 8 pods or something like that. Each pod plays 5 games Thursday, Friday, and then the top player from each pod goes into a double elimination bracket, which is another 3 games of Warhammer, because it's 8, or 4 games, could be up to 4 games of Warhammer, because you'd have to, say you lose your first game, win, get to the final, beat the guy that won all the time, then you have to beat them a second time to win. Like, double elimination is nuts. It also means you can lose in the pod, still get top in your pod, and then still go and lose 2 more in the final bracket. Like, it's a very, it rewards consistency rather than rewarding just right out winning and losing, which I think is very, very good. Orcs too, says Garrett Family. Yeah, like there are a lot of factions, right? Orcs, I guess, are really good. They were good when the book just came out, or when 10th just came out, but nobody was really looking at them, and they just have that style. So that style, the style that's very popular right now in Warhammer 40k, is like multiple small units, or elite army that can just table you very quickly. So you have things like Chaos Space Marines that have a crazy turn 2 beta strike, where they can come in from reserve, and they've got Obliterators and Forge Fiends and a variety of different things that just come out and like just do an insane amount of damage, which then really sort of like throws you for a loop for the rest of the game. And then they have little units like Chosen and Lords that can like yeet out from rhinos that you can't target and a whole variety of stuff. And that in and of itself becomes really tough to deal with. Then you have the Eldar, which is still very, very strong, but they have little pieces. They don't have a lot of units, but each unit is highly efficient, does a lot of damage, and can score tons of points, right? So that works really well. But then you have things like Orcs, which is, if you haven't played against Orcs, do yourself a favor and try it, because they will overwhelm the crap out of your army. They have units, models freaking everywhere, and then from there they can score lots of points. Another option like that is Votann. So Votann is like that, where they have units everywhere, except unlike Orcs, they have the durability and crazy damage output. Like, Orcs can do damage, but Votann have just as many units. They just have little Sagittars everywhere. They have speed and maneuverability with their scouting, and they're flying around the board. It's crazy. And that's where I think, for example, my Drukhari list does so well, is it is MSU like that. It's tons of units, lots of speed, can do damage, right? So I think it works very well within what we're seeing in the meta right now. Is that just what's going to happen? I don't know. Is this the best way to play Warhammer? Who knows? You let me know. Leave a comment. Don't forget to like this video. Dorian says, I think they were the only couple Dark Eldar in Atlanta. Yeah, there were 2 Dark Eldar players, and apparently they both ended up in the same pod. How? How, Games Workshop? Why would you do this to me? Why? Just literally not even give them a chance at a different pod. Just like straight up, same pod. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I think all the Tyranids are in the same pod as well. So like, it just changes the way that you're going to have a representation moving forward in the tournament, right? Only 1 Custodes. Well, that is one. I can't believe there's 1 extra Drukhari, only 1 Custodes. Carl says, I'm late. I have rack hands. The picture that you posted, Carl, of all your racks on the Discord was awesome. Just tons of racks. Lots and lots of racks. I love it. Garrett says, I played into Orcs for the first time at a local RTT with my Drukhari and got smashed. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. Orcs are, like, if you're not careful, they will get you. They will get you good. Added a Void Raven bombing with Dark Sides. You need that anti-infantry killing. Yep. World Champs lists are spicy. Yeah, there's like some really cool tech. Hey, Nurgle Matthew, how are you? Nice to see you. Well described. I'm glad you appreciate the description. It's I try and vocalize like the information effectively that I'm thinking in my head. And because my head moves at like 1,000,000 miles a second, it's not easy to sort of like transfer that information in a coherent way, without getting confused. Yeah. Well, yeah, that kind of is my thoughts on the whole world, the championships. As the weekend gets closer, we'll be seeing more, and of course, next Monday we'll have a Monday show on the Patron where we'll be breaking it down and talking about what we saw and any drama that might have come out of it and whatever it is. I'm really excited to kind of break it all down and that sort of stuff as well. Like when I spend the last week finding some neat tech from my GT list, and then I see that one of the champ lists including the same, I feel validated. That's a very key point. Like when you're in the vacuum and you're building your list or whatever, and you see some cool elements in your list, and then you see like a pro player or somebody who goes to like the World Championships that has like that piece of tech in their list or a very similar list build, and you're like, oh, I'm on to something. You know what I mean? Which is cool. Andrea says, Blood Angels, a powerhouse. Yeah, Blood Angels have some very cool builds, especially with the Death Company, the Inceptors, all that stuff that they can build into the lists. They've got some cool, like, oomph, which I think is really cool. Royal Warden Proscona Monster is hot for the Warrior Brick. Nice. Well, I hope that it works out well. I can't wait to see it in practice, with the mobility and the shooting and scooting and the getting onto objectives and stopping. It's probably designed more to just stop people from scoring primary and just, just get onto objectives and be annoying, right? That's kind of what it's probably for, which is cool. So let's dive into the Patron questions. That's this time of the show where I read all the questions that have been submitted by patrons. If you're in chat, feel free to participate as well. If I don't get to your list today, I'll get to it next week. Yeah, and that's it. I'm excited to do my bounty for Warzone Atlanta. Wrote a narrative to go along with the bounty. That's awesome. One of the coolest things about Warzone Atlanta are the bounty system. It's like more like engaging, and there's like cool things to do throughout the event and stuff. It's really cool. Talos is the way. Uri and Rakarth and Talos. Oh, the Libby Dread. Yeah, there's so many cool things. The Libby Dread is awesome. That Libby Dread to teleport stuff on a 2+. I've played against that in 10th. I played against that at the TGX against Sam, the Blood Angel, Sam, the Blood Angel player, and he literally was teleporting stupid OP Sternguard veteran bricks everywhere, and it was the silliest thing because those things would just pop off. That was back when they I don't know, their devastating wounds worked really well. Anyway, it was it was immortal wounds carried over with devastating wounds, and they had like heavy bolters and stuff. Anyway, it was just madness, like madness. That list was so silly. But let's go into Patron questions. So Hi Call Ray says, what advice do you have for someone thinking of changing factions at the beginning of the year? You have to be the first player to beat a Drukhari player, and 50% of your army has to survive. It's called Pray They Don't Take You Alive. Nice. Beat a Drukhari player and have 50% of your army survive? That's awesome. Yeah, Sam Procopio is a great guy. Yeah, Sanguinius 40k. I'm not sure if he's still doing videos on YouTube, but he had started like a little YouTube channel back when Blood Angels were all the hotness. But he got a new job and was really busy with that. But you still see him out there, out and about. First place holders is his team, and going out to represent, which is really cool. Okay, so if you want to start a change factions at the beginning of the year, are you thinking of doing the faction for like just a year, or is it like a brand new faction that you want to start a collection with and continue on into the future? I would always start with like a box set, build it, paint it, and see if you enjoy it. That's like the number one thing. Whether it's a character or a piece, like I've had people who start a Dark Eldar army by buying a box of Cabalites, building a box of Cabalites, and being like, this isn't for me. Just by building the box. And just being like, I didn't really enjoy the process of creating them. And so they just fall through with it. But that would be the first thing, is buy a box, build it, paint it, and see if you enjoy the process of collecting that specific faction. That would be the main thing. Because you're going to spend a lot of time doing it, you might as well enjoy doing what you're doing. Because if you don't enjoy it, then it's just a drag, and then it's like work, and it's not fun. But thank you for your question, Hi Colin. Who enjoys building Cabalites? I do. I actually have tons of fun. I'm currently painting the Kill Team Cabalite set, right? Trying to finish painting it. And I have 20 more Cabalites in a box up there that are not painted, but I've converted every single one individually, and I cannot wait. I enjoyed building them, but painting them is another issue. Like, I have painting Cabalites. There's so many details on these things. It just drives me nuts. We have seen 3 kinds of Dark Eldar builds, says Fish Eyes. Bomber Spam, Talos Spam, Tantalus. Last weekend, Double Tantalus did the best. Yes, it did. Which of the 3 builds do you think is the best in the current meta? Well, based on the fact that I recently won a GT with my Talos, I have to say the Talos. Honestly, the Talos is probably the best because of where the meta is right now, very specifically, which is if you play against Space Marines, you better be prepared to kill like 10 vehicles or more. And most of them are Dreadnoughts or Land Raiders with 2-up saves and armor contempt and cover. And they're just so annoying to kill that if you don't have a bunch of haywire, you're going to die. And then the Tantalus is great, and his toughness 10 is awesome. But, you're going to run into that Eldar player that brought haywire. Or you're going to run into any other anti-tank build because everybody's trying to kill tanks. At least the Talos you can kind of hide a little bit, has like a flamer, is really good into certain matchups. you know, and then has Haywire to sort of like kill those Sagittars and that you're seeing with Votan, to kill Terminators at range with their devastating wounds, to kill Terminators in close combat with their damage 3 or Wraithguard. Like, just in terms of the meta, I think Talos are just better. So I think that is the way to run them at the moment. Can you build other stuff? Yes. Do I want to build a triple Tantalus list? Hell yes, because triple Tantalus is freaking awesome, and I can't wait. Triple Tantalus, triple Core of the Archon, triple Beast Pack. I wonder if that'd fit, but it would be really fun if it did. Yeah, cheers. I'm mad I have 30 other Kabalites that are not the kill team. Yep. I own 40 Kabalites plus this. That's 50 Kabalites, 70 Kabalites. So I literally have more Kabalites than I'm allowed to take in 2,000 points. Except some of them are not painted, so I have to paint them up. But thank you for your question, Fish Eyes. I'm clicking buttons to show you that you can. There you go. Triple Beast Pack. Oh, yeah. I only own enough beasts for double Beast Pack, though, so I'd probably just go double Beast Pack. Because I only own enough beasts for double. Okay, on to the next one. Carl asks, I know you're high on Talos. Yes. Yes, I am. Crush them up. Delicious. But they are slower and can be a bit harder to deploy. Can you discuss the challenges with Talos in competitive 40k? Yes, 100%. So I think the biggest challenge with Talos in general comes with the changes to fly, right? They move 7 inches, so I think they move like an inch less than they did last edition. You know, they can't go over buildings or like ruins and things like that, and that it can be very annoying because of the way that sort of like terrain is a little denser now, and you have to go like around walls and stuff like that. However, what I've found is that now instead of like, because you don't advance in charge either, right? Like Talos don't really advance. They used to advance in charge and go over buildings, so you could like hide them in a corner and then wait for the advance in charge turn, and then just like yeet them out and get really far down the field with the Talos, and that would sort of like throw people off balance. Can't do that anymore. So in deployment, I want to use them sort of like one unit of 6. Like that's ideally how I'm using them, is like a big unit that supports each other. So it's not 3 units of 2, it's just one block. Secondly is I've learned that I need to be very patient with them. I can't just throw them up like and try and yeet them up the board and get them anywhere useful. I have to sort of like stage them behind walls so they don't get shot, because they're durable, but they're not as durable as they seem. And then sort of like get my opponent to commit into the middle of the board off to a flank or whatever with specific units in a position where I can then use my Talos to sort of like shove them off, and then use that as a springboarding to kind of move the angle and change the direction in which they've been going from the middle, either continue up the middle or go up the sides. That's usually how I've been using my Talos. But it's about being patient. And that's like what I'm going to say. Don't try and like get them involved right away. Like kind of wait for your time to strike with them. They're slow, they're lumbering, but then when they strike, like put your foot on the gas and go for it. Do the Kill Team Kabalites use the same data sheet as normal ones? Yes, yes they do. They're on bigger bases though, which I think makes them look cooler because they like take up more space. I decided to put the war gear on them like a regular Kabalite war gear. So it's in Kill Team I think you can only have like one heavy weapon or whatever. But I've decided I gave them all the weapons they need for them to be Kabalites basically. Have you ever reserved my Talos? Not really. Not so far. Like, I guess you could if you wanted to, but I would never reserve more than 1 unit. And the biggest thing is because they are sort of like a bully unit, I don't want to reserve them because I want my opponent to not feel safe pushing heavily towards my zone. And that's what Talos do. They sort of make my opponent not want to just shove everything at my face. It forces them to respect the space around the Talos, which then allows me to score primary a lot easier, because they can't just like shove a bunch of stuff right in my deployment zone and be like, well, I hope you can shoot me to death, you know what I mean? Which sometimes doesn't work. At least with the Talos, I can shoot, I can combat rather effectively into most targets, and they're also durable, so they can kind of body block for my Kabalites and my other units that are really, really weak, essentially. But thanks for the question, Carl. That was a very good question. Cosmic asks, so now that we have a good bit of time and experience with the Leviathan GT setup, I'm assuming you mean missions slash the terrain style. Do you feel the terrain and missions are in the right spot? Any missions you think are misbalanced? I think the terrain is excellent. It's not bad. I think there could be variety. I wish there were forests and craters and like barricades and like different styles of terrain and it wasn't just ruins all the time. I do like the footprints on the ruins. I think it's great. I think standardizing the size of the ruins would be good for competitive play. But if you get too like standardized, we're like one step away from turning into 2D War Machine terrain, which I think would be shitty. Would be terrible. I would hate it. So I want variety in terrain. Not as wacky as some of the terrain stuff, but put a forest in there so that we can use those rules. Put like barricades in there so we can use those rules because they all have specific rules. And then maybe fill up some of the like big open spaces with a crater, right? So that you can actually use those rules as well. So I think I would just like different elements. As for the missions are okay. I think the only one that's really wacky or that feels really wacky is deploy servo skills. Like they even said at the World Championship, they're not going to use places of power, which is the one where you have to get your characters into the middle of the board to empower the objectives to get more points because it's a little imbalanced. And I understand, like, some factions have, like, multiple characters. It's very easy for them to do. And some factions have, like, one, and it's a little harder to do. But Deploy Servo Skulls is one that I know is loved, especially by Mike. He loves Servo Skulls. I love it too. But at a competitive level, Servo Skulls is like the wild card of wild cards. You know what I mean? Like, it's just being able to grab all the objectives and go first and shove them up at your opponent is nuts. It's just crazy. It's nuts. I think that mission could use some rebalancing. It's wacky. Okay, it's wacky. The one where you move objectives is a real pain in the Servo Skull's the best mission ever. Yeah, it's like a really fun mission. It's really fun, but it definitely requires some balance. Like, I feel like if the objective in the middle didn't move and it counted for primary, that would help, for example. And then each you could only move maybe one objective at a time and you couldn't just like shovel. I like the dynamic of like, ooh, I want to move it, I want to hide it, I want to send it this way. If you get too aggressive with them, you can change your secondary scoring because all of a sudden there's no objectives in no man's land and you screw yourself over. I've done it where I'm like, oh, it's the end of your turn. I control this Servo Skull. I'm going to send it so that you control it so that if I get, storm hostile objective, I gave you an objective to control, so then I can steal it away from you, that sort of thing. So there's like some cool nuance to it, but it's definitely a wild mission. Yeah, Servo Skulls. But thank you for your question, Cosmic. That's my main answer there. Hello, everybody who just hopped in. Thanks for watching. If you're just watching the replay, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps the video get noticed, especially because it's a live stream and my algorithm's more for like battle reports. And the live streams don't really get nearly as much traction because I know the algo hates the live streams, so I don't do them very often. Pomp asks a question. It says, what do you prefer, fruit punch or punch fruit? Fruit punch. If I punch fruit, it's just very messy. Also, how many Kabalites are too many Kabalites? 70. Because you're not allowed to take 70. I only own like 40, as I said. Well, and then I'm building another 10, so I could run 50, and then I could do a 60. So I would love to try a 60 Kabalite warrior list with 6 Venoms and just have MSU galore everywhere. I'm very excited to try it. It's like in the works. I will show it off when I'm done. As of right now, I'm thinking 30 is about the perfect amount. If you're running 50, it's like a theme. The theme is Kabalites, right? If you're running like 50 to 60 Kabalites, that's the theme. So you can't have like all the Talos and all the Void Ravens. Like, you're your theme is Cabalites, right? So lean into that theme. Hey, Tom, what's going on? Thanks for coming to hang out. Appreciate it. Pomp, thank you very much for the question. Moving on to the next one. Danny G asks, I've heard on various podcasts Anthony Vanella talk about how current World Eaters play very similar to previous editions of Drukhari. Single previous edition of Drukhari, to be very clear, the 9th edition Codex, being fast and hard-hitting melee army. Previous single one Codex of 9th, where everything else was not like that at all, from 3rd edition. It was the exception to the rule. Have you had a chance to play World Eaters before? And what are your thoughts on the comparison? I do believe it is a very accurate comparison. It is. Tom says, evening from the UK, just want to say, you rock! Also, please play Idenith on Mini Wargaming. Fine, Tom, I'll get some Idenith Deepkin and play them. It is not one that gets played very often at the Mini Wargaming camp, but I will try it out. Tomorrow, though, I'm getting on a tangent. Sorry, Danny. I'll get to your question in a second. So on a tangent, Tom, tomorrow I'm playing Dave, and I get to play Ravage Star. Really excited about it. They're doing their cool Kickstarter campaign for the second wave of miniatures and the different factions of Ravage Star, and it's awesome. And the game is really fun. So, yeah. Anyway, if you guys haven't checked it out, make sure you do. Because I can't wait. I can't wait to do a couple bat rips of it too. It's fast paced, it's engaging, it's fun. It's like a cool game. It's just a fun game. Okay, yeah. So back to your question, Danny. Yes, World Eaters feel like Dark Eldar because they're very aggro. It's like stage, so move up, stage behind walls, and then go rah, and then table your opponent. That's kind of how Dark Eldar did it, and that was very specifically Anthony Vanilla Dark Eldar, which was 10 Incubi and Drazar and 6 and 9 Talos or whatever, and you just shove them down someone's throat. But yeah, I think it's an accurate depiction. On to the next one. Oya or Ola says, if it's not too late, it is not. Which subfaction of demons is your favorite out of the lore/cool, and which could be your favorite to play? For 40k, I really like... See, I don't really enjoy playing demons as a mono faction. I'm going to say it right now. I don't like playing demons as mono demons. I think demons are a cool idea as a faction, but I feel like the gatekeeper Grognar in me says demons should be allied to other Chaos factions, like Chaos Space Marines or Chaos Knights. Then demons make sense. But just an army of demons is far-fetched for me, in terms of the lore of 40k. However, as a straight-up faction, if I was doing a sub-faction or mono-faction of them, I have always really enjoyed Slaanesh because of their fast, they're speedy, their intrinsic connection to Eldar and Dark Eldar, which is one of my favorite factions. And then when all else changes, I've really enjoyed Nurgle. Nurgle is just slow, lumbering. They kind of mind their own business and plant trees and stuff. Just lore-wise, I just really like Nurgle, just in general. Yeah, Papa Nurgle. He's just Grandfather Nurgle. He's just a chill dude that makes you bloat and puke yourself a lot or make a boil on your head, sprout eyes and a mouth and start talking to you. So cool stuff. Also, will there be games against demons soon? Well, I have every Monday I'm filming a battle report. I haven't had a demon player reach out to me yet to play a battle report yet. However, I will as soon as I can. Yeah, as soon as I get somebody down, I'm willing to play against whatever. But it's been really nice to have a nice mix of different armies to come and play against me at the studio, the Tabletop Forge. You can always email me at skaredcast@gmail.com and set up a Monday appointment to come and play with me in Barrie, Ontario, Canada. So take a plane, come out, hang out, that sort of stuff as well. Release Isha. Papa Nurgle is just he has a plan. He has a plan for that. Tom says, very random question. How easy is it to immigrate to Canada? I have no idea. Tom, I don't know. I didn't immigrate from Canada. I was born and raised in Mexico. And then we came to Canada, and that was like 18 years ago. So I'm sure some of the policies have changed since then. Bizervon. Bizaveron. Cool. Welcome. Thanks for the question. I have a question. If you used Scourge for objective play in some games, did you ever feel like having heat lances? No. No, because heat lances are great, they're fun, they kill stuff, but if I'm doing missions with them, a lot of the times I'm advancing with the Scourge, I'm doing an action with the Scourge they can't shoot, so their heat lances wouldn't really come in handy. And secondly, if I ever wanted to use them when I'm not using them for missions, they have to get really close to the enemy, and then they get overwatched and probably die. Because everything that they need to kill with a heat lance usually has a flamer or like a million shots, and they just die, right? So Haywire on the other hand, very useful Haywire. Road Trip Cosmic, come on up, buddy. Insane for Rain says, hey Scary, hi Insane, how's it going? Just finished purchasing Drukhari after lurking and creating a wish list in the shadows for 2 years. Welcome into real space, Insane. Any advice on what models to prioritize for 10th edition Drukhari? Cabalites, a Chronos, Scourge, Ravagers. Yeah, and Mandrakes, if you can find Mandrakes or convert them. Yes. But you're so English. Where does the accent come from? My parents are from England. So I have a Queen's English accent. Also, when I'm performing or doing a video, it does kind of click into my old English accent. I'm like, oh, I have to sound fancy. When I'm more relaxed, it sounds more Canadian. Except when I ask for a glass of water at Tim Hortons. A lot of times I'll be like, can I have a bottle of water, please? And they'll be like, what? I'm like, water. What? I'm like, water. And they're like, oh, you mean water. It's the silliest thing ever. Okay. Oh no, you're good. You're good, Tom. This is the oh, and it's not list crunch. Why is it list crunch up there? Ta-da! Crisis averted. It is now the Monday show. It was list crunch for the last 40 minutes. No one has to know. Thank you for your question, Bizervon. CH Luke Kevin asks, hi Scary. Hi, how's it going? Would you please provide an overview on how you generally employed your Talus? As I said, I hide them behind the wall. I use them as 1 unit of 6. Did you make a castle and move them up or keep them back to screen and use them later? There you go. Both, actually. Did you try and use them as durable objective holders and force your opponents to deal with them? No, my Cabalites hold my objectives. I send my Cabalites onto objectives, send my Beast Pack into my opponent's face, they deal with the Beast Pack, my objectives are now stickied, then my Cabalites leave the objectives and go prevent my opponent from scoring primary, and the Talos bully anything that gets close. In a nutshell, that's kind of how it works. How durable were they? More durable than my opponents thought, and less durable than I would have hoped. Do you use them -1 wound strat every turn? I do use the -1 to wound strat often when I'm trying to keep my Talus alive. When you played against infantry heavy lists in which the Haywire was not that useful, how did they do? Amazing. Devastating wounds with Twin Linked is still really good, especially against things like Terminators or monsters. You've got 4 shots hitting on 4s, a couple of hit, sure. Then you're wounding on 6s. With rerolls, like you might get 1/6, and that's just 3 damage that goes through, or a Terminator that dies, or an infantry model that you've killed, or a character you've wounded. Like, the devastating wounds actually were quite good in the Haywire, even against infantry as well. Because you always can use a delicious bowl of list crunchos. That's right. That's secret sauce. We can't tell the non-patrons about that, Foz. That's not how that works. The list crunchos secret recipe. But I hope that answers your question, Kevin. It's like a mix. You have to, the thing about my Dark Eldar list is you have to be flexible. You can't just do the same thing every time because it doesn't work that way. You have to think on the fly and be able to switch depending on what your opponent is, the mission, the terrain especially, because that really dictates how I use my Talos. Like if I can't hide my Talos hide. So like I have to put them back or split them up or use them further back than I would have expected, or they're the last thing to get deployed and I deploy everything else, and then when my opponent has committed to the board, I can put them in one spot, that sort of stuff, right? Yeah, that's right, Foz. Yeah, keep the secret Patron video lingo secret. They have to pay for that. I'm joking, by the way, everyone. Don't apologize, Foz. It's good advertising. Why are you giving him advice, Nikki? Come on. Awesome. But great question, Kevin. Thank you for asking it. Okay, so then we go on to the next question. Phil asks. Phil says, if you go second with a list that has a lot of scouts, do you still move them up to create speed bumps, or move them back to force the enemy to come all the way down to you? Asking for my triple Beastmaster list. So with the Beast Pack Masters, I always deploy my Beast Packs in a position where, with a scout move, they can hide behind a building. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a building in my zone. It can be a building like front and forward, or get them in a position to go and like attack the enemy and move block and like harass. If I go second, they tend to go into the building that I'd set up for them to hide behind. So then they can do that springboard later. I don't want to just throw away units willy-nilly. Now, if my opponent has a big, hefty close combat unit, or like something that's very good at shooting me or can get angles, sometimes I'll put the Beast Pack out there as like bait to be like, hey, here's something easy for you to kill, so that they like put resources into killing it and therefore don't kill the more important things that they could have shot at. Because then if they don't shoot at or kill the Beast Pack, then the Beast Pack is in a position to lunge forward and go and like potentially capture their outpost on like turn 1 or whatever. You know what I mean? So Sam Perculo is something. Nurglings with attitude. That's right. That's why I love Nurgle. Yeah, Sam Procopio. Yeah, Nurgle Matthew. Yeah, he's really cool. I like Sam. He's good shit. Okay. But yeah, that's like the question, Phil. The question is, the answer is I like to keep my stuff alive when possible, and hide them if you can. But like, don't be afraid to throw one of them out there, especially if you had 3 of them, just to sort of bait your opponent to like get angles on them or get close or commit to killing them, because then you can like, ooh, I can actually get a kill or line of sight or whatever. So. But great question. I'm really excited to see you play that triple Beastmaster list more, which is hilarious as well. Okay, on to the next one. Unstable Llama says, Skari, well done on the win. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm interested to know how having only one character affected your games. Assassinate, your combat capabilities, etc. Also, how you use the Talos in-game. So we did go over the Talos stuff, so I'm not going to elaborate too much more on that. Were they an effective replacement for Ravager firepower? Yes, and they were tougher. And they can punch in combat. The Talos were incredible, because they gave me some board control in the mid-board, threatened my opponent in combat as well as shooting, and the Haywire with Twin Linked is fantastic into the meta right now. More than Dark Lances ever will. Like, 12 Dark Lances from the Scourge is enough Dark Lances, I found. They jump, shoot, jump, so they're really never going to get shot. Ravagers are great. They're cheap. They're good. They're a fantastic tank. But when they've committed, they're committed, and they can get shot back. And then they die, and then you don't have those Dark Lances anymore. And into the meta, where we're getting lots of like armor contempt cover vehicles, like just having Haywire is just fantastic. And then combering it with Twin Linked is great. And then having a liquefier gun and a 3 damage attack in combat is also very good as well. Right? So it's a good combination of things. So as for the character unit, so the biggest thing about the Beastmaster, and this was definitely a very big sort of like design thing that when I was building the list, was I have a character. So there's, when you're getting Assassinate, number one, your opponent can't really take Assassinate as like a fixed. Fair. But if they're using Tactical, a couple of things would happen. Either they would draw Assassinate on turn 1, and my Beastmaster would be either right in their lines, because I went first and shoved them in their face, or they would go first and draw Assassinate, and then my Beastmaster wouldn't be there, and they wouldn't be able to get Assassinate. right? Which, by the way, both those scenarios happened a few times. Or they would draw Assassinate later in the game where they've already killed my Beastmaster and they draw Assassinate, and because I have no more characters, they instantly get Assassinate. So I was just like, well, I'm just going to give whoever I play 5 points. But that's just kind of how that was. And the aim was to spend as little amount of points on characters as possible with the most amount of effort. Now, Succubus is meh. The Homunculus is great. I love Homunculi. I love Lilith. She is freaking awesome. She's fantastic. I love her. She's awesome. However, it just didn't really fit into the list. I wanted 20 wounds at 100 points. That was my character. I threw them up, and they just move block. They get in the way, and I was okay that being my only HQ. I come from a Dark Eldar vein of, like, you had one character, and that was it. And the cheaper the character was, the more other crap you got to put in your list, which was always better. You know, back in 6th edition, it was a single 20-point Lamian that sat in a corner and hid to try not get tabled, and then you reserved the rest of your army, because if you deployed anything, it just died back then. Because there was no terrain, and triple Tau Riptides were terrifying. Anyway, so that was like the concept. It was like old school Dark Eldar concept of very cheap characters. And I was like, I'm not going to worry about giving up Assassinate. My opponent can do that. As for combat potential, it's the Talos that do most of the combat, so I don't have to worry too much about combat from my characters. Now, after the event and revamping the list, very simple change. Took out a Raider, put in Uri and Rakarth as a second character, mainly because it supported the concept of the list, which was the Talos, so I can heal them, right, if they're close by. He's also really boss, like he's tanky and hard to kill. And then he could be my Warlord, so that my Beastmaster can go get murdered, and then if they do draw Assassinate later in the game, they have to try and kill Urian, which is not easy. And so that was a quick little change that I did in retrospect, based on my experience at the event. Garrett says, I have found the largest issue with Drukhari is nothing standing in the center objective. The Talos definitely solves that. I don't really fight for the center a lot of the time. I fight for the edges more than anything, and I will contest the center for the whole game. I'll contest the center. I've got enough little units that I can just throw things at objectives until my opponent doesn't score anything. But the Talos really help you fight for that middle objective. They bully with the best of them, which is really, really cool. You can't, like, nothing else in the Dark Eldar army does that. Moretti says, glad I made a live stream. Just got my combat patrol, boarding patrol, extra raider, Cabalite box. Time to start the Drukhari force. Also Drazar. Nice. There you go. That's the spirit. And then hopefully by the time you're done painting it, we've got a codex. You know, who knows? We'll see what happens with that. It'd be really cool. Beast pack can't go through walls, right? Well, they are beasts. So yes. Yeah, beasts can go through walls. Okay. Army, Sean. Army. Oh, that's right. Army. What's going on, Sean? Dear Scary, happy Monday. Thank you. I'm playing in the Ontario 40K Competitive League. My next game is against Dark Eldar. I wonder who your opponent is. Oh no, it's me. My opponent is a reasonably good player. That's me. Could you please give me a detailed plan, step-by-step plan on how to beat him? You could outline target priority, deployment, their favorite strats. Thank you. You're very welcome, Sean. Let's give you a rundown on my competitive list that I'm running at the Ontario League. Awesome. Number one, he has no Talos in his Ontario League, so you can totally take advantage of that by bullying the middle of the board with stuff that can't be killed. He also has no Haywire in this list, which means tanks like Land Raiders with cover have a 3-up save against Dark Lances and Armor Contempt. His favorite stratagem is the 2 CP pick a unit to move again, which is a battle tactic. Ooh. So you can definitely vect that if you have a Calidus Assassin, or double vect it, because you're playing Deathwatch. So yeah, there you go. As for deployment, don't put too much in reserve, because he will zone out the whole table, and you will not play with your toys. There you have it. That's that. Hopefully you can beat this dastardly Drukhari player. Had his own game. But yeah, I can't wait for our game on Wednesday, Sean. And last but not least, Archon Morsan asks, I feel this answer is a bit biased. Well, I'm giving him all the information I would give anyone. Other than me playing the game and then filming it and then being like, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Because it's so varied, it varies. That's the thing. Plus, I have a Void Raven Bomber in this list. It's my old competitive list with like the Solitaire and stuff. Oh, yeah. Yeah, good stuff. I don't even remember what's in my list. It's been so long. How do you approach each of the deployment types? Dawn of War, Hammer and Anvil, Sweeping Bonds, Crucible War, Search and Destroy. Well, it's actually really cool. I've been doing a whole series for the patrons and for Art of War on the different deployment styles. And basically are on the GW Terrain map pack. So I highly recommend that you watch those. The second one goes up tomorrow? No, Wednesday. The first one already went up as well, but I'm going to be doing one for each of the Games Workshop deployment styles, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But honestly, it really depends. I have to do another video on approaches. That just reminds me there's something I need to do. The biggest thing is always deploy as if you're going to go second, right? And try and turn every one of these deployments into Hammer and Anvil. Try and turn it into Hammer and Anvil. Board control it into Hammer and Anvil so you have tons of space to maneuver and to get to where you need to go. And in a nutshell, that's like the best advice I can give when it comes to approaching the different terrain types. Garrett says, my main qualm with getting rid of some Ravagers to add more Talos with Haywire is what happens when you run to a greater demon list or double Avatar. How are you taking them down? Well, Avatars you take down with Grenade and Tank Shock. That's just how you kill Avatars. The devastating wounds on the Talos Haywires actually add up into monsters. And 12 Dark Lances is more than enough with paint tokens. Like, you've got enough Dark Lances. Believe me, I have tested it. And you also have the blasters and the Dark Lances from the Caplites. But Grenade and Tank Shock are your best friends, because they do more damage than most Dark Lances will ever do into a lot of that stuff. Greenblood Crusade, good day, sir. Great to see that smiling face this evening. Why, thank you. I do look like a scruff that just had a shower, because I did. And I'm like, scruff. I need to get a trim and a cut, and look a little fancy. We'll see if that comes up. But yeah, to answer that first question, Arkham Morsan, turn every deployment to Dawn of War, deploy as if you're going second, and don't be afraid to use all 5 turns. Which means you can deploy further back and then you use your movement to get into position. You don't always have to be right into position right away. Follow-up question, if I may. How and when do you deploy a Beastmaster? I deploy the Beastmaster every time. And as I said earlier, I either put him in a position where he can get really aggressive and move block most of my opponent's army, usually on the top corner so that I could turn the deployment to Hammer and Anvil and they can't push this way. And then I can shove like everything into that like corner of them trying to move this way. Or in a position where if I go second, they can move behind a wall and stay alive so that then I can move block them for my turn, for their second turn as well. And that is what I'm going to say about that. What are you tank shocking with your list since you're dropping the Raider Venoms? Heck yeah, Venoms or Raiders have the same strength. It's literally 6 dice on 5s to do mortals. That's it. I will tank shock anything that does free damage. Mortal wounds, grenade, tank shock, my best friends. I absolutely love those 2 strats. I'll be honest, I haven't been using grenade and tank shock. That's a great idea, thanks. Yeah, the best way to kill the avatar, any avatar, is literally grenade and tank shock. Like, yes, you do other shots and you try to bring it down or whatever and force them to use their fate dice and a whole bunch of stuff. But grenade is your best friend. Grenade is 6 dice, 4-ups to do mortal wounds. That can literally just do 6 wounds and half damage the Incarn. And then you could tank shock with Venom and roll like 3 more mortal wounds there too. Like, it's just so good. Yeah, Venoms, see, because they have got Blade Veins, and Blade Veins are strength 6 or whatever, which is really funny, because then you go to, like, a Harlequin Starweaver, right, which is the transport of Harlequins. Their weapon is only strength 3 or 4. Like, they literally have the dudes with little stabby guns. There's no blades on. So Dark Eldar Venom is actually really good for tank shocking, based in the category of vehicle that it is. Which is little crappy transport that has, but it's no orc truck with a wrecking ball that has like a stupid amount of tank shock dice for a truck. But that is the topic for another day. Okay. That's all I got for you today. Thanks a lot for tuning in to this edition of the Monday Show. A huge shout out to the Denizen community on Patreon. Thanks to you, I get to do videos and create content. That is the best way to support me is on Patreon. The link is in the description. You can sign up on any of the tiers, and there's bonus content, an awesome Discord, a great community of likewise minded gamers from around the world, and it makes my world go around. On that, you're all amazing. Thanks a lot, everybody, for hanging out with me today. The Dark Kin. Bye, everybody.